I thought I would talk a little bit about Charles Manson today. And Charles Manson was one member of a group known as the Family back in the days, and he's famously been the center of the controversial so-called cult that operated, and some of the members did act out apparently some kind of revolutionary violence. Now, really the nagging questions from this case, from the incident, from the movement or the myth, is whether or not Charles Manson as an individual was responsible for as much as they pin on him, as much as he's been convicted and publicly convicted, in the court of the public opinion, due to sensationalism, hype, and propaganda to make him into some kind of a martyr who was able to control the minds and the actions of so many other of the members of this family. Okay, so family is a generic term, and we cannot discount any further use of that because it's a popular or common term to use. The Italian mafia or Italian organized crime and Italian American, whether they call it more properly in Italian Cosa Nostra or whether they call it family, and it runs the full spectrum to drug cartels, so-called organizations, which are also organized crime in Latin American countries, and there's Familia Michoacan operating today in Guatemala and southern Mexico, and up into the United States, obviously, because they're shipping a lot of goods northwards. That's Familia. So there's a lot of family, and into the full spectrum of being a term of good. The human family. There's rainbow family, which are basically people stemming from the flower power generation of the late 60s. And so that's enough said on the family as a derogatory term, okay? If Manson came up with the term for his group or somebody else did, I'm not aware. But in the sense that they were using something that was just very universal. Now, the other members include persons such as Lynette Fromm, I believe is her name. She was taking the chosen name of Squeaky. And there's Susan Atkins. Forget the first name and the person, Watson. His chosen name is Tex. Apparently he does originate from the state of Texas. Some people have been deceased as of this date, 2012. Some of them, such as Manson and such as Tex Watson, still serving time. I believe Squeaky Fromm has been set free after completing a sentence unrelated or semi-related to the incidents in 1969, stemming from a political action, seemingly violent action against the President of the United States at that time. Was it 1971 or 75? Somewhere in that range. I'm sorry about the year there. So this person's free. I don't know. There's so many aspects of this to look at it as a cult and how a cult operates. A cult, in the mythical sense, is a group where everybody's controlled by a charismatic leader, the head. Now, whether or not that's possible, or it's just a convenient way to characterize and place blame after the fact, may be used to conveniently explain things, and yet what was actually going on. Is there such thing as a group mind? Is there a way of having a person as just a collective mouthpiece, representative of what everybody's thinking? No, I'm not saying about blame now. I'm just saying the way the group operated and what was their belief system, what were they trying to express. Obviously very violent repercussions for people around them, for people that they chose to project that on or to use as examples, victims. By the way, I just recently looked up where the secondary murders took place after the first one. And the secondary ones, I've actually been on that street. And it's kind of a north central Los Angeles area. It's up by a major road and to slightly off to the west of a north-south highway. I'm not going to give away the location because I don't know what they're doing with the house. I think somebody else is inhabiting the house. And it's interesting that people that are living there right now may not have known what happened there. Real estate people, are not going to be so forward all the time. A couple of interesting things to me was that everybody continues to dwell on Sharon Tate because she was one of the more famous victims, famous at the time that it happened. it's not like I just want to dwell on the incident itself, but because of the incident, because of the actions that the group took, because of being apprehended shortly thereafter, it comes to the public mind. And if the incident had never happened, or if they were never caught, then it really wouldn't be in the public mind as to who they are. But that's just hypothetical, because there's really no way to get away with it. There's no way that they would actually want that. I think that they were so crazed and fanatical that they knew it would get found out, and they didn't care, because the philosophy was that this would be good for the revolution. Apparently the plan was to do these actions, these violent actions, to spark a racial war between black versus white, and hide out. They needed to hide out, so they had places to hide out. In fact, which one was it? One of them, I don't know if it was Susan Atkins or, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting one of the names of the other girls. She went to Alabama, and she was apprehended from Alabama, and for the felony charges, she got extradited back to California. So they were intending to scatter out to these hiding places. Now it's kind of ridiculous that they did this. This is not a plan that anyone would concoct in their right mind, except for the success of terrorism, the term that we use today. But if you want to just use a really, really generic term, it's fear. The actions that they took sent a message causing fear in the population, and still does today. How many of you maybe didn't want to listen to this and thought, well, what a topic to go after? Why? I've studied it over a long time. I never just felt like saying anything about it. Or I might have said a couple things. I think I actually talked about another guy, completely different set of circumstances and conclusion, with the Jonestown incident, if you remember that. This was a San Francisco preacher with a much, much larger group. His name was Jim Jones. And I did a video probably about 4 or 5 years ago on that phenomenon. I think I was talking about cults also. So, I don't know, you want me to ramble some more on cults? Every group that takes issue with society at large, and if they have a specific point that they're trying to make, every one of these groups should be considered a cult. To me, cult is just a group that has organization, and someone can always be picked out, or some little core group can always be determined or observed, and this core group or core person will be the charisma and the voice for the message. So therefore, a lot of the things that you see going on in the world is not termed a cult, but it is a cult. They are cults. So that will help us see the world more accurately. The Republican Party is a cult. The Democrat Party is a cult. The Libertarian Party, definitely a cult. The Green Party, definitely a cult. Ralph Nader's party, I forget the name, is it Progressive? That's a cult. Ralph Nader is the cult leader. So we've got a lot of rethinking to do, I think. And with the example of Charles Manson, it's very rich in the American mythology, the American counterculture, let's say. You've got a mainstream of America, which is the big group of everything that's accepted, everything that makes beaucoup l'argent. Beaucoup de l'argent. Mucho dinero. Boatloads and boatloads of money. Then you've got the counterculture, which is antagonistic to all of that. And in the lexicon of America, Charles Manson has this place there. He has this heading. And you can't talk about the recent formation, the recent developments of America without considering it. That's why I bring it up as a subject. We just look for understanding of it. You see this guy in prison, and you say, well, is he being punished unjustly? Is he really culpable? Like, he actually wasn't there for the murders. He wasn't at the place. So that makes him maybe an accomplice, and you listen to his own statements, and he's like, well, he wants to be in prison in a way. That doesn't mean anything. That just means if you have to be in prison, you're going to accept it. Everybody knows when they're in prison. If you're watching this in prison, or if you've just gotten out of prison, or if you know somebody in prison and you go visit them, you know that the state of mind of the prisoner, the one in prison, even to Nelson Mandela or Gandhi, Mohandas K. Gandhi, who was held in prison, the mindset is that you have to accept it to keep your sanity and just say, you want to be there. There's a reason for you to be there. And it's doing time. Doing time. So Charles Manson's doing time. And it's very legendary, because you don't really know how much to believe about what you hear and what people are promoting as the truth of it. So I take everything with a grain of salt. Is there a reason today for sparking a revolution? Yes. Are there a lot of groups? Are there a lot of cults that are working on that? Yes. Is Charles Manson still working on that? Is he still directly or indirectly connected to other circles out there? Yes. Yes. His ideas are very strong. The ideas of his followers and his fans and people just mesmerized by the whole thing are very influenced. Is it a threat to the stability of the United States? Well, they make it seem that way. That's why he doesn't go out on parole. He doesn't get any credit. Mainstream society would probably never accept his finer ideas about living as family. But the devil's in the details. It's how you do it. And if that's what he does with all his people, the teenagers and people in their 20s, and I guess he was he quite 30 or just into his 30s when he did that? Something you can't really live down, I guess. And maybe they don't care. Maybe they're just so against society and hate so much. I agree with one thing, is that there is a lot of problems in society. It's been going on since the 60s. Nothing's ever abated. It's not alleviated. Everything's been brushed under the carpet. So there is still a lot of reasons for revolution, but how it's going to happen, I don't know. I don't know, and I'm not saying. Just ain't going to say.